The AMD 6600 XT is launching in a few months. Supposedly, it's supposed to be an entry-level or more budget GPU, but the price is definitely pretty crazy. We're going to talk about why it's going to price a lot of people out of the market. Let's get started. Hey guys, Tiago with Classical Technology here. Remember to subscribe and smash that like button. They say every time you do, a 6600 XT is still a very expensive GPU. So that's the topic for today's video. We're going to talk about the 6600 XT and why the pricing that AMD supposedly is giving it. We don't have official confirmation yet, but it appears that it's going to be priced at $399. Now that may seem cheap to all of the really highly scalped GPUs on the secondary market, but this is actually pretty important because it looks like most of the GPU companies, starting out with AMD, they're certainly making the price of these GPUs, the entry-level GPUs, fairly expensive. So let's talk about why this is significant and why it may possibly just price a lot of people out of the market. First, the 5700 XT, which was the previous flagship last generation, came in at around $399 as well for its MSRP. And if you compare the performance to the 6600 XT, it's actually remarkably similar. So this would indicate that after a generation, pretty much you're getting the same performance for the same price. And as enthusiasts, we all know that price to performance is absolutely vital, and you want to see a progression year over year. This is why the 3080 was so popular when it came out. At $699, it represented a giant leap in performance over the 2080, even the 2080 Ti, for significantly less money, at least the MSRP price. Not to mention, of course, the secondary market and the whole mess that happened afterwards. But at $699 compared to a $1,200 2080 Ti, 3080, that's a good value for your money. I don't think anybody really contests that if you really are looking at the original MSRP. Now, even though MSRP prices really don't matter in this day and age, they still sort of do, because it gives you the baseline price of where something is at, and generally from there, this price will scale up either by third-party AIB partners or on the second-hand market where people are selling these used or maybe even trying to sell them over the original price. So if a GPU already has a high starting price of $399, you can bet that if the GPU shortage continues like it has, you're going to see those prices be considerably high. Take the 6700 XT for an example, which isn't really supposed to be a high-end GPU like a 3080 or anything like that. It's more like a mid-range GPU, but they're regularly selling for over $800 or $900 when they should be substantially less than that. I mean, a 3070, which is going to have better performance than a 6700 XT, pretty much comes in at $499 MSRP, even though recently they've also been around the $1,000 mark on the secondhand market if you can find them. So that really goes to show that the 6600 XT in normal times, maybe it's a much cheaper GPU, at least maybe $100 less or something like that. But at $399, I think it's going to price a lot of budget and enthusiast gamers pretty much clear out of the market. If you take the RTX 3060 or the 3060 Ti, they're really very similar in price. The 3060 MSRP at $329, even though they're selling now for $800 or so on the secondhand market. The 3060 Ti, which certainly is going to have better performance than a 6600 XT, is basically at $399. So perhaps AMD's pricing compared to NVIDIA is a little bit higher in terms of the MSRP, because AMD knows that most likely most of those GPUs that sell will be at this MSRP, as they do tend to stay in stock longer than their NVIDIA counterparts. We've talked about this before, like in stores now. AMD GPUs were the first one to stay in stock longer. NVIDIA generally does sell out more often, so that means that if an NVIDIA MSRP is $399, like the 3060 Ti, most likely nobody's really going to pay that, because by the time it gets on with the third-party AIBs and on the second-hand market, that's generally marked up sometimes double that price. So 6600 XT starting price definitely going to be a no-go. The performance, even though it's fine at a 5700 XT level, the price is just too high. So now we have to see, what does this indicate for future GPU releases? If you're looking at the AMD pricing, they definitely looked at what's going on in the market, look at the shortages and the secondhand pricing, and they figured they're going to be able to get away with this pricing. But that's only going to hold true if the shortage really continues throughout most of the year and into next year. We've seen trends of prices actually going down and GPUs being in stock. If you go to your local stores, even check online, more people are getting GPUs now. Most likely it's going to be like a 3070 Ti or even a 3080 Ti, which are the light hash rate models. People have been seeing those in stock more often than ever before within the last few months. Not to mention that the AMD 6000 series GPUs seem to have come in stock first and generally stay on the shelves longer just because of their perceived value, and they're typically a little bit more expensive than the NVIDIA counterparts. Talking about the third-party AIB prices, as we mentioned before, MSRP pricing pretty much out of the window. So traditionally, if a gamer wanted to get a good GPU between $250 and maybe $350, you always had the 60 series from NVIDIA, like the 3060, the 2060, and the 1060. Those were always very, very popular amongst gamers. And last generation, AMD did have some, competition. It wasn't too crazy like it is this generation. They had the 5700, even the 5600. Those generally were priced decently, sometimes well under $300 to compete with NVIDIA. But now, pretty much the tide has turned. AMD does have highly competitive GPUs against NVIDIA, but they are pricing them at a premium, more of a premium than NVIDIA is. NVIDIA could easily have priced the 3060 at $399 or even higher. That's something that's going to compete pretty much with the 6600 XT, and in a lot of ways, it's certainly going to outperform it. Definitely the 3060 Ti will outperform the 6600 XT, as that's going to be more of like a 5700 XT level performance GPU. So that really doesn't bode well for gamers that want to get a fast gaming performance at a good entry price. So if you want to get a GPU, at least now, the budget experience really isn't any good. We're not even talking about cheaper, like $100 to $200 GPUs. These are the GPUs that traditionally were sort of the meat and potatoes of the market, the nicely performing GPUs, and you didn't have to spend a huge amount of money. But at $400 for a 6600 XT, even all things considered with shortages and things of that nature, definitely you're paying as much as you would have last generation for the same performance, and that's really not what we want to see here. So hopefully the pricing trends that are happening now on the secondhand market continue to accelerate, because that's going to push all of these main companies to reduce their MSRP pricing with future releases, or else it's going to get to the point where even if you have like a 6600 level GPU like from AMD, instead of $399, if it gets worse, the price may be $600 or $700 in the future, and we'll be paying $2,000 to $3,000 for the really high-end GPUs if the pricing were to stay at this constant, very, very, weird level that we're in now. These really aren't normal prices to pay for a GPU when you have like a 3070 from $500 to $1,400 like it was in May. That's very peculiar. So I really hope that the market fixes itself, especially with these entry-level GPUs, because a lot of those people are just going to give up, not build a computer, and they're going to go get a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox or something like that. And that's certainly going to make the overall PC market much weaker, which isn't good for us enthusiasts, and it's certainly not good for the companies selling these GPUs now. All right, guys, so let me know what you think about the 6600 XT. Our price is just way too high. Remember to subscribe, smash that like button, and I'll see you guys on the next video.